Today, we're talking about an optic that has absolutely no business being this good at the price that it comes in at. This is the Gunnr Odin optic. This is a 1:8 first focal plane. There's a variety of other configurations, but this is the one that I went with. It has features and glass quality that I think punches far above its very affordable price range. A lot of people really like LPVOs. I think they're great. For a while, people on the internet were saying LPVOs were dead, but I think we all knew that was just a fad on Instagram. You shouldn't listen to what people say on the internet, except me. You should always listen to me. I've never told a lie. I've never been wrong about anything ever. So today we're going to be talking about this optic, what it's good for, what's actually great about it. There is honestly some sort of voodoo magic in how good this is for the price and for what it offers feature-wise, and we're going to be talking about that today. Thank you. Everyone, today we're going to be talking about the Gunnr Odin, the 1:8 first focal plane LPVO. Now they have a 1:6 and a 1:10. They reached out to me and said, which one would you like to review? They wanted to send me the 1:10. I'm not a huge fan of 1:10s. I thought 1:8 was significantly more interesting. I'm going to run down the specs. We're going to do some disclaimers, and then we'll talk about what I like and what I don't like. So some basic specs about this optic here. It is a 1:8 first focal plane LPVO with a 30 millimeter tube body and a 24 millimeter objective lens. The elevation turret is locking and it has a zero stop. The windage turret is locking. It does not have a zero stop for obvious reasons. The illumination has 6 brightness settings with an off setting in between each, which is much appreciated. It runs off a standard coin battery. You can get this optic with or without the mount. Any 30 millimeter mount should work for you. It comes with a removable throw lever, which has not come loose on me at all in the 1,000 rounds so far that I've put through it on this 308 CMMG BR3. The reticle style in this optic is a Christmas tree style reticle, which I'll just show on the screen here. It is very usable at 1x. The big lines lead your eyes into the center, making it easy to see. While the illumination is not truly red dot bright, like a very, very small few of the optics on the market, it is daylight bright and is usable for adding additional contrast in a low contrast environment, like shooting into a dark area on a bright day. It makes it very easy to use. The reticle has, I believe, 50 MOA of adjustment, which gets me to the point of this being an MOA click system and MOA reticle. I know some people prefer mils. They only offer it in MOA. They have the 1:6, like I mentioned. I'm more of a fan of 1:6 second focal planes, and I'm not a huge fan of 1:10 in general, so that's why I went with the 1:8. And now the big selling point, the absolute, I don't understand how they managed to pack this in at such an affordable price range, because I believe this one with code Reno is like $470. This optic has German shot ED glass, which if you don't know what that means is it's really, really nice glass. This glass has absolutely no business being as good as it is at the price that it comes in at. I think this is going to be a very, very disruptive optic in the price range that it's competing with. And I think it's going to be very competitive and keep people from wanting to take a step up to the $1,000, $1,500 price range optics. But we're getting dangerously close to talking about pros and cons. Let's talk about some disclaimers in just a second. So let's talk disclaimers before we get into the good and bad of the Gunnr 1:8. So Gunnr originally reached out to me asking if I wanted to test out their 1:10. I said I would rather check out the 1:8. And the reason that I was initially willing to do this was because when they sent me the email of the spec list, I saw German shot ED glass, I saw the price point, and I thought, there ain't no way, like it can't be that good, right? And then their initial email said that it had parallax adjustment on the scope. Unfortunately, it does not seem as if that is a feature that they are offering on any of the models. So maybe it was something that was scrapped in the later designs because they wanted to get this into the price range that it could be affordable, or it would have caused some sort of other compromise, because their big motto is zero compromise. And I think that they, for the most part, really do achieve that. They also offered to cover the cost of reviewing this CMMG BR3, which shoots 308. And if I'm gonna shoot 2,000 rounds of 308, I'm gonna need some financial assistance. And they were kind enough to offer that. And if you use code Reno at Gunnr, you'll save 10% on any of the optics, including the 1-10 and the 1-6, and obviously the 1-8. So thank you for them for supporting me. I think that this optic is gonna be very disruptive in the market, assuming that they continue to produce high quality optics such as this. I think this is gonna be a name that you're gonna be hearing a lot more of in the future. So let's talk about the pros. Well, first of all, the glass is as good as I was expecting. It is fantastic. I truly don't understand how at the price point that they're offering these scopes, they're able to get German shot ED glass, which I will give my theory in the cons section of this, but the glass is fantastic. I'm not noticing any major blur at 1x. The scope body doesn't disappear like a Vortex razor, but that's a MSRP like $2,000+ scope. It doesn't quite disappear as much as the Primary Arms PLXC, but again, that's an MSRP scope that's 3 times the cost. So the scope body is fairly minimal. I mean, I've seen significantly worse, and at the price point, it's always worse. This has a very bulbous feature set in terms of the scope caps. It's not a small scope by any means, but it seems to perform very well at 1x. When I bring the gun up, the image is clear. I'm not noticing a whole lot of distortion at the edge. It's like honestly kind of surprising how minimal the distortion is. But I guess when you put most of your design budget into glass, I guess that makes it possible. So at 1x, the daylight brightness is enough to give me contrast for shooting targets in brush environments. A lot of times when I set up steel out at the range, I don't paint it. I just throw out steel. So I'm shooting at gray steel, which is very nondescript in an environment that is very distracting and full of brush. And I'm finding that at 1x, I can shoot that. When I go up to 8x, it's even more pronounced. I can see the contrast on what I want to hit. So I'm not noticing any lack of brightness for what you actually use this for, because at 1x, the lines really bring you in. At 8x, the reticle is big enough at that point to where it's very usable at anywhere throughout the magnification range, especially with that added illumination. Now, I'm gonna try to get this on sound here, but the turrets are fantastic. These are some very, very positive turrets. I don't know how good that sounds to you, but it feels great and it's very loud for me. Even when I'm wearing non-electronic ear pro, I can hear that. And if you can't feel that, obviously you can't feel it, but if you couldn't feel this, you got problems. I can feel the vibration all the way to my freaking elbow. These are some good turrets, in my opinion. Now, like I said, this thing has survived so far about 1,000 rounds of 308 through this CMMG BR3, which for me is plenty enough to say that I don't think that this is gonna lose zero anytime soon. It's taken a few bumps here and there in the sense that, like, oftentimes a firearm can sometimes, when you lean it up against something, fall, but it's not taking any huge bumps or damage like that. I don't like to do that to my own equipment, but if it happens, it happens. So for me, this thing has not lost zero. The turrets seem to track properly, and when I return it back to the zero lock position, it's back where it was. So for me, I'm very pleased with the reticles. The throw lever that it comes with can come out if you unscrew it, but it has not come out at any point during the shooting process. So for me, I'm perfectly satisfied with that. The throw lever really makes this move smooth, and even without it, it is still very smooth and easy to turn. All in all, the function of the scope, fantastic. The glass quality, fantastic. The adjustments, great. What are the cons. Like every LPVO, on a first focal plane especially, when you get to the 8 or 10x magnification range, the eye box gets small. And it's gonna. That's just kind of how physics works. Unfortunately, the wider the magnification range, it seems as if that has some sort of correlation to the ability for you to have as good of an eye box at the higher or lower ends, depending on how severe that range is. Unfortunately, we have yet to find a way to defeat the laws of physics, so that's how it is. Now, I'm gonna give you some criticisms. Some of these criticisms weren't my own. I've seen other people talk about this, so I wanted to mention it, but it's not something that really falls into an issue for my use case. So this is available in MOA only currently. There are no mills. So if you're a long range shooter and you're used to doing mills, might be an issue for you. If you don't care about that, MOA is fine, but maybe some point in the future they will do a mill option. But for now, everything is MOA. Someone else mentioned that if you do more than one full rotation on the elevation, there is no indication how many rotations you've actually made. So you could find yourself in a position where you're like, oh man, am I up 3 turns or only 2 turns? For me, I'm never gonna use that. I'm gonna do everything inside of the reticle. It's got 50 MOA of adjustment, which I think when I was doing the math on this 308 was enough to get me out to distances that I don't have access to. So for me, that's not an issue, but for some people it might be. Now, here is the one that I'm gonna know people are gonna complain about. It's not red dot bright. It's only daylight bright. And what does that mean? Daylight bright means that in low contrast situations during the day, you can see the illumination. Red dot bright means Vortex Viper PST, Primary Arms Nova, or like a red dot brightness where it can cook your eyeball if you look at it too hard, right? You're only gonna get that on reticles that are very simple or on red dots. You're not really gonna get a daylight bright first focal plane complex illuminated reticle without spending 2,500 bucks. There might be cheaper options out there, but realistically, you're not gonna find that on anything that's in the budget range. A lot of you might say, oh, my Vortex Strike Eagle is red dot bright. No, it's not, it's daylight bright. I have one over here. I can confirm for you that the Vortex Strike Eagle is not red dot bright. It's daylight bright, which is fine. And actually, that's good enough. That's what you realistically need it for, right? You need illumination to make the reticle stand out a little bit in low contrast situations. This does it. The other budget options do it. Most first focal plane and second focal plane optics that are more complex in the reticle also do that same thing. So for me, not a huge con, but I did see people complain about that and I didn't quite understand it. But the only actual con, which I think is why they are able to get such good glass and such good features on this, is it's heavy and it's long. Because of the weight, because of the size of this optic, you might find that it's a little bit too heavy. This is about on par with the Vortex Viper PST when it comes to weight. And honestly, I don't have a problem with that. If I needed a super ultralight gun and a super ultralight scope or optic setup, I would buy something specifically for that role. But since I don't need that, I have no problem running this 308 as is. Being able to hold this out right here, if you can do that, it's light enough. Now, I think it's something like 24 ounces. You can find that information on the website, but it is heavy. This is a heavy LPVO. But what you get in return is glass quality that you will not find on any other optic in this price range. So I think that the size and weight is the compromise that this company that claims no compromise has chosen. And for me, that's not a compromise. That's just when you have really good glass, you can either choose to have it be expensive as hell and light, or inexpensive and it's on the heavier side. So for me, I am willing to work with that. I am willing to accept that because what I'm getting in return is something that is very good. Here's my 3 things that I would love to see some improvements or changes in the future for me personally. I talked about some other stuff that some people might prefer, but I would love to see a version that's a little bit cheaper with capped turrets. I'm not gonna be fiddling with these. Straight up, outside of testing it for this, I'm not gonna be messing with this. I'm gonna zero it and I'm gonna use the reticle when needed. So if there was a cheaper option with capped turrets, I would accept that personally. The warranty is good, but it's not Vortex good. It has some sort of mention of having proof of original purchase from an authorized dealer. And now it's transferable, but if you sell it to someone, they have to still maintain that. Honestly, I would love to see them improve the warranty just a little bit, be a little bit more no questions asked as far as like, obviously if someone intentionally damages it, I don't personally believe that that should be covered in most warranties, but I don't like the idea of having to hold on to my receipt. So maybe that's something that they can improve in the future. Now, the major con that I would love to see, that the major improvement, which is really only something that time will tell, is I want to see this company survive long term. I want to see how this goes on going forward. The only way to get a good proven track record is if they continue to produce and continue to provide high quality optics at a low price, or higher quality optics at a higher price. So their reputation is very new. There's nothing they can do about that now except for continue to exist and continue to make good optics. So if you're interested in this, let me know. If you found this informative at all, let me know. If you want to see the review of the CMMG BR3 in the near future, let me know. You guys know the drill. Have fun, be safe, stay dangerous. Peace.